Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And we're here with Dillon Laney.
Hello.
And each season, we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode. We invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are continuing our journey through The Last of Us Season 2. Today, we're on the second to last episode of the entire season, this Season 2 here. And we're on episode 6, titled The Price. Okay, Sarah, kick us off with a summary for the 6th episode.
Joel surprises Ellie for her birthday. Years later, Ellie prepares to confront Joel about her past.
All right. Let's do our episode titles for this 6th episode. Dillon, what is yours?
Oh, mine. I come back to me.
Okay. Got it. Wait. Sarah?
Yes, my title is You're Empty.
Okay. I'll go next. My episode title is Uncle Grumpy.
Ah, yes. We get a lot of time with Uncle Grumpy.
Oh, we do. We do indeed.
And I'm going to go with How'd I Do?
Nice.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, here in the first part of our episode, we are going to share our thoughts and feelings about this episode at a high level. We won't spoil this episode quite yet, and then we'll give a spoiler in a bit. So, yeah, I'm curious y'all's thoughts about this 6th episode. High level. What do we think?
I'm going to say straight out of the gate that because of the way in which this episode is told, I am going to have a very hard time saying anything that is spoiler-free. But I mean, generally, I don't think a lot happened. There were 2 good moments in the show that I will praise, but pretty much everything else, I was just like, why are we here? What are we doing? What are we accomplishing?
Mm-hmm. More wandering, more purposeless, wandering through time, space, forests, wherever there is to wander, we will be there with The Last of Us Season 2. Okay, I'm curious, as we get into the spoiler territory, I'm sure more thoughts will come as you have more freedom to talk about them. Sarah, thoughts about this episode?
Okay, so here is my hot take about this episode. I don't think that it's a bad episode. I think it comes at the wrong time, so then it feels purposeless, and it's not answering questions that I had. And I think that if this had either come as the first episode or the 3rd episode, this would have worked well. And it would have answered questions that we were asking, or at least that I was asking. But because it's episode 6, it felt like a complete waste of time. And I would like to know who at HBO I can talk to get a refund, because they wasted an hour of my life and I'm upset about it. But I really do think it's not a bad episode. It just came out the wrong time. And then it just removed all of the impact and meaning for me.
Mm-hmm. I had a similar thought on this coming. Well, my main thought about this episode is basically it's too little too late, which is kind of the same point I think that you're making, Sarah, which is I think this should have been the 2nd or 3rd episode of the season, when some of the big moments that happen in the opening of the season are really fresh, and for us to spend time with certain characters that we've experienced a lot of big things at the beginning of the season would have been really meaningful and gut-wrenching and all of the best ways. I also think that there's some big thematic things that are seeded at the literally opening scene of episode 1 around 2 words that Joel says that obviously come back again in this episode. And I think that also needs to have been closer to when we are literally refreshed from that scene at the opening of the 2nd season as a callback to the finale of season 1. And so it's like I forgot that I was supposed to think about and care about some of those things and have some of those questions. And this episode was the thing to remind me that those were things that at one point I was curious about and then kind of gave up hope for. So I do think that raises some interesting questions for like what the finale will be. What I think that they're trying to do is position a lot of the choices perhaps that Ellie will make in the finale of this season in context of some of these events that happen in the 6th episode. Because of that, the penultimate episode of any season is always just such a clear tee up for the big dramatic moments, the big stakes, the big directional places that will go with the narrative arc. And so it just feels so notable that they waited for this to be the second to last episode of the season, right before the finale. And I feel like they're going to try and make us believe that there's a lot of these connection points. Whether we will buy that or not, I think is a different question. But I think that's their intention for putting it so late, which I think I'm curious to see if that will help make the season finale better or still just be as confused as I am now.
I love your positivity. It's such a wonderful trait that you possess. Because I'm over here like 3 episodes ago being like, nah, this is trash. I'm done. And you're like, man, maybe there's still some hope here. And I appreciate that about you. And I should be a little bit more hopeful as a person, but I am not.
Well, here's the thing that's going to happen is if the season finale works well, then I'm going to delete from my mind episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Maybe we'll leave one of them in there, but this will be a 4-episode season in my mind. You know what I mean? We get episode 1 where some big things happen. We get maybe a 2. We go straight to 6 and 7, and then we're done. And that'll be the last of the season 2 for me in my headcanon.
I love it. I love the rewriting. This is excellent.
All right. Well, let's give a spoiler alert here. If you haven't seen the 6th episode of this season, we're about to dive fully in so that Dillon can talk about all of his thoughts now. With freedom and full ability to talk about anything you desire. So yeah, Dillon, I'm curious your thoughts about this episode. I was thinking about you a lot while watching because there are so many flashbacks, and you mentioned in the past that the video game does a lot more cutting back and forth. Mm-hmm. So I was curious, your thoughts on how they handled flashbacks specifically for this episode.
Hated it. I thought it was awful. As a storytelling mechanism, having an entire episode just be flashback, I do not think was effective, because I think what makes a flashback impactful is it's kind of to some of what Sarah's talking about. It's answering a question that I have, or it's adding some new juxtaposition to what's happening that makes you think more critically about what's being unfolded in front of you. And I think that's one thing that the game story does really well, is that flashbacks are being interwoven as appropriate, and you're going out of chronological order. And so to just have it all just one big episode, here's all the flashbacks you ever wanted to know, I think is just kind of a travesty, honestly. I think, similar to what you both already said in the opening, the moments individually I thought were good. Like, a lot of the scenes worked for me, but I know the rest of the context of the overall story, and I know where some of these things belong, but a lot of it does not. For example, I'm just going to jump right into the meat of it. The porch scene at the end, phenomenal scene. Really, really good scene. In the game, that's like at the very end of the whole thing. And it's done at a very critical moment in the whole story, and makes a lot of things start to tie and make sense. And so to see them just blow it on this episode, when I know how much more there is to come, is just leaving me very distrustful and angry about the directions that the showrunners are taking. So that's how I'm feeling. How did you take it?
I really hated the structure of this episode. I think that they maybe tried to do something that like felt meaningful, which is to like show these vignettes cut together of Ellie's birthday from age, like 16, 17. Oh no, it's a little bit earlier too, actually. Anyway, there's this like motif around her birthday, and we cut from moment to moment, and it tells this like larger story of the relationship that she's had with Joel, and then how it gets to the point where it does by the time she's 19. And I think like I don't know, maybe they chose, like, moments that didn't really, like, congeal together well for me, but I almost felt like I was watching, like, montage that somebody on YouTube, like, cut together of, like, Joel and Ellie's relationship over the course of a season. The people will do that for, like, interactions and dynamics between, like, two characters that they really love and get to see, like, the trajectory over the course of the season. But in for it to be, like, a standalone episode of television, I felt like each time we cut away, there wasn't enough time for the previous moment to really, like, carry emotional weight. Similar to what you're sharing about Dillon, flashbacks are really interesting because they actually heighten or add deeper emotional weight or stakes to whatever thing that character is experiencing in the present. And so, for example, the cut back in time to Joel's childhood and everything that he's experienced with his father and having to absorb so much of the aftermath and the implications of the way that his father parented and how that informs how he parented Ellie. Like, that's really great, really interesting. I actually think that should have happened maybe in, like, episode 1, when we're seeing a lot of the emotional strife between these two as Joel's really trying to connect with this daughter figure in his life and him still also carrying a lot of the effects of his own way that he was parented. Like, that's really meaningful because it's digging deeper into how much Joel's trying his best, but also carrying a lot of the, like, maybe generational trauma or weight as well. And that getting in the way of his ability to really emotionally connect with Ellie. That's cool. That adds so much more dimension and meaning and all of that kind of stuff. It feels a little random this episode. Like, I think it maybe wants to paint this, like, really wide, long-reaching picture of, like, generations and then all of these years of the relationship between Joel and Ellie. But it almost felt like we were, like, skimming the surface of the water, and I wanted to, like, actually just go deeper on one moment and then cut to something in the present or closer to the present. And that's it. Like, I'm satisfied, So I felt like because we cut so many times that each one actually had less meaning and emotional, like, resonance for me. So I think that in theory, it's a cool concept to cut from, like, Ellie's birthday year after year and see the deterioration of the relationship, but also the care and love that was there the whole time. In theory, that could be cool. Maybe it could have been executed differently and it would have worked, but this one didn't really work for me.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what we already talked about a little bit. Like, Joel died in episode 2 of this season. And Ellie has gone off on her whole little mission, and at least my reading of her is that, I mean, obviously she's fueled by this revenge idea, but I'm not feeling that in the writing of this character. It really does feel like, and we've talked about this, it feels like she's just going on a camping trip with her girlfriend. And so for me, like, Joel has kind of been removed from the story a little bit. Like, I've moved on mentally. Loved Joel. He's great. Pedro Pascal is a wonderful human. He's always a joy to see. But, like, we've moved on in the story. And so this almost feels like, especially because the last episode, finally there felt like there was some momentum, and it was the Ellie that we had been wanting to see. And so it's like, okay, what is she going to do next in the present to, like, move this story forward? And then all of that momentum comes to a screeching halt to answer questions that I was no longer asking. This episode is answering questions that I was asking at the end of season 1 and then kind of around Joel's death. Like, that's when I wanted this to come. But now this episode feels like it stopped all the momentum that the show is finally getting into gear. Like, this show has felt like it's just been, like, trying to move forward. And then it finally did at the end of the last episode. And then this episode is like, nope, we're going back in the past. It's just like, all of that momentum is now stopped. And so now we're going into the last episode of the season. And what are we even doing? I left this episode so frustrated because it came at completely the wrong time. And it didn't do anything, at least for me, to, like, further the plot or further anything that Ellie is going through. Because we had already kind of gotten the gist of her relationship with Joel. Like, I didn't need a whole flashback episode to explain things that I already basically got the gist of. Like, we could have just kept going in this timeline instead of going back into the past.
Yeah, 100%. It's like they tried to, in one episode, tell the entire story of Joel and Ellie's complicated relationship. But to everything y'all have already said, without connecting it or drawing the lines to why it matters and where it should be. I mean, I hope I'm not spoiling. I think I can choose my words carefully. But the story of The Last of Us is supposed to be this kind of complicated ebb and flow of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, as we're going on this revenge mission. Is it justified? Is it not? What was everybody's motivations? Why is Ellie doing what she's doing? Why are the Fireflies doing what they're doing, right? And you kind of have this dance throughout this whole journey where you're going, well, I kind of get why they're like this, and I kind of get why, why they're so evil or whatever. And that's, I think, where these flashback moments come in and help to correct and nudge and offer new insights where previously you would vilify somebody, and then you see a flashback and you're like, oh, I get, okay, I empathize a bit, right? And it's like they lost all of it and said, you know what, let's not do any more flashbacks. We're just going to cram it all in to a single episode and then just let the viewer figure it all out and figure out where they want to place those connections. And they have a puzzle. They have dumped out all the pieces of this puzzle on the table. The puzzle is a beautiful puzzle, but they've somehow taken the pieces and were just convinced it would fit and have just like jammed it into spots where it doesn't belong. So they have something put together that you can take a picture of, but it does not flow. It does not work. There's cracks. They're assembling it in all the wrong ways.
That puzzle metaphor is so good. I'm just imagining like a piece of like art that you're kind of like turning your head upside down and like maybe, okay, so to the left, maybe I can see what it is and what the vision was. But like no matter where you turn your head, you hang it like upside down on the ceiling and it's still like, I don't see a picture yet.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I think too, especially your experience with the game and being able to see what that puzzle could look like, you're really feeling and able to like see how wide the delta is. I think for us, we're just kind of like, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, I don't see the puzzle at all or the picture because I'm still in the forest, lost somewhere on my way to Seattle, like still trying to figure out like, I'm not sure where north, east, west, or south is, but we're walking, supposedly, very slowly somewhere. I think what's kind of a shame, I think especially in this episode, is that scene on the porch is so rich. Like, that scene alone is great. And I think both of the actors are doing an incredible job. A lot of the concepts that they are experiencing emotionally but articulating to each other are really fascinating. And I think like just dimension of what like the messiness of human relationships often look like. Like, I really love how Joel owns up to what he did, which is like, okay, I'm sitting here watching being like, okay, wow, growth, that's good. He's owning what he did and he's telling the truth. But then he says he would do it all over again. So that bit of growth is also tinged with something else as well and makes his like moral stance and also us now knowing, having lived through like the events that happen afterwards, like he continues to double down on he did this out of love and he would continue to do it again. And he doesn't seem to maybe fully recognize what's wrong with his actions. But then also we can understand and relate to him that a lot of that's coming from the fact that he couldn't protect his actual daughter. And so a lot of that is also fueling maybe some of the warped mindsets that he has around what is moral, what is not, and what love and protection looks like versus doesn't. Similarly, I also love, like that alone is really interesting, but then I also love that scene continues to play out and Ellie's response is really interesting too. She wants to forgive him, but she's like, I don't think I can forgive you for this, but I would like to try. And I think that is a state of what it means to be a human that is so relatable. Like when you feel that level of betrayal, you feel all of the emotion and bitterness of that, but the love is still there. And so you're like, I want to try. I don't know if I can. But even that willingness to try is in contrast with her also recognizing this might be too great for us to figure out how to reconcile. So, like, all of the kind of like juxtapositions and the fusion of many things, contrasting things at once together, and how they're both feeling and what they're articulating back to back in this conversation, I think is so beautiful and so interesting to have been put on the screen in this way. So I loved that scene. I think the actors do an amazing job of bringing all of the complexities and nuances of those emotions to life too, and not leaning too heavily in one direction or the other, but allowing the ability to articulate how you can feel seemingly different, contrasting things all at the same time. It's an incredible scene and so well done. So in my mind, I'm just going to pretend this episode is just that one scene because I think that's where the emotional weight of this episode is. But everything else leading up to it's a little funky. That scene alone is amazing.
I would like to just add a tiny bit of color that,
Okay.
Yes, I agree. The scene was phenomenal, so well done. Really enjoyed porch scene. Except, dear listener, imagine for me, let's fast forward to the end of season 3 of this show, right? We've finished this whole saga. Just imagine all these things. And all the while, we never know when the last time Ellie really talked to Joel was. We assume that it was at the dance when she yelled at him, right? So we go through this whole storyline with all of this complicated mess, and we just assume it always ended on that angry note. And then right at the climax of the story, we see this scene at the very end. And we finally get this whole complete picture about their relationship, where it ended, the attempt to mend, that they had it out in the open and knew what had happened. To pull that here, I don't know how they end this whole story. Not season 2, like season 3, assuming that's where it ends. Like the porch scene is supposed to be this ultimate reveal that finally tells you what Joel and Ellie's relationship is, where they ended it. You kind of have this moment of closure where they're trying to reconcile. And you also grasp the frailty of that relationship, and that the fact that Joel died the very next day also adds this, like, they were scratching at something that was taken from them, right? And so it adds all these. So I don't know how you top that ending. So to blow that scene here on the 7-episode season, and the one that frankly is not going well, like I don't understand the choice, and I'm concerned about where the rest of it goes. I just really am. I don't know how you land this plane.
Yeah, you're like, good luck to the writers of the show now. You have to figure out a more interesting or more meaningful ending than what was already incredible and epic in the game. Good luck to you all, people.
Can I, on a lighter note, one other scene that really worked for me was the 16th birthday. With going to the museum and the spaceship, I loved the shooting of all of that, Ellie imagining it. I think Joel did an amazing job as character, like bringing the music tape. It was just really good. I don't know, that I loved that scene. It's just something showing me the deepening relationship between Joel and Ellie. But what did y'all make of that?
I loved that scene too. I especially loved that moment when it's just her face as you're hearing the sounds from Apollo, whichever number it was, and how she's just imagining going into space, and the way that the lighting and the colors change, and it's just her face. And Bella Ramsey does such a good job in that moment. Like, that took my breath away. And I think that is a little glimpse at the brilliance and the talent that is behind The Last of Us. And it was such a cool moment. And then, of course, I was disappointed because I'm like, well, why don't we have good stuff like this consistently throughout the show? But I loved that moment, and just man, Bella Ramsey does such a good job in that. It's so close on her face, and she communicates so much with just her facial expression. It was fantastic.
Another quick shout out for Bella Ramsey's acting in this episode is that as we're cutting from her 16th birthday through to her 19th birthday and all of the years in between, I think she did an amazing job showcasing like the difference in how we behave when we like go through those formative years. And when she was younger, she acted younger. You know, there is the look in her eyes a little bit different. She's a little brighter eyed, bushy tailed. The way she speaks and relates to Joel is a little different. And then by the time we get to when she's 19, you can really feel that she's older. A lot of that's, I'm sure, like in what she's wearing and whatnot, but a lot of it's just in like the subtle things, in the tone in her voice, some of the small like facial expressions and gestures that, you know, when you watch like friends of yours or family friends of yours that are, or relatives that like grow up through those years, they do change so much in how they just like show up in the world as a 16-year-old versus a 19-year-old. And she did a really great job capturing that well and actually allowing us to feel the difference in her getting older or her being younger. I thought that like those subtle things that she does to really signal that to us as the audience was also really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She did, or I guess they did a great job at going through all of those changes, because it is subtle, but it's also not at the same time. It's all of those teenage things. We've all been teenagers, and we know what that's like. And then I think on the same page, Pedro Pascal also does a fantastic job as Joel, just navigating through all of these changes. And at least for me, I kept thinking about his daughter in this episode and how now he's experiencing all of these things with Ellie that he wasn't able to experience with Sarah because she died in episode 1. And so I think that was also just like looming in the back of my mind, and you can feel that in this episode. So just like shout out to Pedro Pascal, because he is also shifting and changing as Ellie is also changing. And so Pedro Pascal just navigated all of those changes as Joel just really, really well.
I'm also curious, Dillon, I was reading or just like looking at a bunch of headlines about how that like space scene was one of the most beloved ones from the game, or seemed to be like an audience favorite. That was a really meaningful scene. And how did those scenes compare, or what in the game made that really meaningful as well? Is it because it's a flashback that was like perfectly timed and like tugged on all of the heartstrings in all the right ways? Or why was that scene in particular so loved by players of the game?
It's a lot about timing. It's also because in a game, you're just able to literally be Ellie, right? And so you also have this sense of curiosity, and you're kind of trying to explore the museum. You know, as you're going through the game, you still don't know about the porch scene. I guess you don't in this episode either at this point. But, right, so you kind of have this sense of wonder as well, and you're just wrapped up in it. I mean, it takes shot for shot from the game in many ways and does a great job of it. I think the other thing that gives it a lot of weight is the game has more time to flesh out Ellie's fascination with space and love of it that I think the show has made some nods to, but the game just goes deeper. And so seeing this is just a really heartwarming, tender moment. I actually don't remember at exactly what point in the game it's done, but I remember it being very tactful and feeling super relevant to give me this sense of like, why is Ellie so, hell-bent on revenge when she had this weird, awkward ending with Joel and, wasn't really agreeing with him. And then, you have this flashback come in to answer that question, and you go, oh, I get it. But then it raises another question of like, well, how did things get so screwed up because they just loved each other so much right at this point in time? I don't know, it has so much. It's well timed. You get to explore with a sense of wonder, but the scene in the show really stayed very truthful to the source material.
Got it. Seems to be a common theme, eh? Some of the best scenes. I think the one from the previous episode is the hallway and the red lighting as Ellie is hunting down, I think her name was Nora, That was also, I think I remember shot for shot. Also a great scene translated to the big screen too. Got it. Cool. I was curious about that because there were so many articles on, that space scene. Finally, we got to see it.
Yeah, it was so good. For something that was not in the game, that I did like the scene. I thought it was good. It was helping to advance the plot. It made sense. Finding Eugene in the woods and promising to take him back, wink, wink. I really like that. I thought that was a good segue into the conversation with he and Ellie, and that was the perfect like breakdown point. But I found myself, I don't know, you kind of knew how it was going to go, but I was still very hooked, and I enjoyed the way they played that out. I think the only thing I didn't like about that scene, that the line was so bad it took me out of it, was Joel saying, "If you love someone, you can always see their face."
That didn't work for you, Dillon?
Sure didn't. Like, I was going along. I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, I'm liking this setup. And then he said that, and I literally like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't feel like a Joel line. Yeah, that really came out of nowhere. And it's a bummer because, like you were saying, the whole thing is set up really well. And, like, obviously, Joel is about to murder a dude, and he lied to Ellie about murdering the dude. But he is so intentional to lead Eugene to this really, like, peaceful, beautiful location. So, like, that, I don't know, to me at least, was such an act of mercy almost, and is, like, Joel knows that he's about to do this terrible thing, and Eugene knows that he's about to die, but Joel is trying to do him a kindness in the midst of that. So I love that choice that they made for Joel, because that just seems to totally fit his character. But yeah, that line, that didn't feel like a Joel line at all. It was really funny in a moment that shouldn't have been funny.
I wish in that scene they'd had a little bit more of maybe like conflict or disagreement about like what they should do, because I think it's a really interesting, like, once again, I love the moral dilemmas that are posed in the show, where you find yourself in these situations that there's a conflict between the human in front of you and then all of the humans around you that are also in danger that you are looking to protect. Like the moment, I think maybe it's the previous or the one before it episode, where Dina has her gun and she thinks that Ellie got bit, and she's having to like deal with all of the feelings back and forth of like, I'm supposed to kill her because she's gonna turn and then kill me, but this is the person that I love most, so how am I supposed to do that, And I just wish that there was a little bit more of that with Joel and Ellie, maybe back and forth, or Joel articulating that a little bit more, because so much of what, even his choices that he makes with the Fireflies at the end of season 1, is in his mind coded as protection. And for him, as a protector, that is how he shows and expresses and displays his love. Sometimes in the wrong context, sometimes in the wrong way, and it can be incredibly misguided. But like that intention is still a part of the like root source. He's not like just taking people out left and right. You know what I mean? Just because he's got a need to, or there's an aggression there. Like it's genuinely for something in his mind, and maybe he makes the wrong judgment calls, but there's something that it's for. And I just wish that, I can see how the whole like I promise thing is teeing up for the ending of the episode, but I just wish there was a little bit more of like an argument that happens, or a disagreement, or Joel trying to explain like, look, this is what we have to do, and Ellie being like, yeah, but he's got time, and they're discussing how much time does he have. I just think that would have like made it a little bit more interesting than I think what we get is a little bit more like straightforward. And it is very clearly in our minds in this scene, leading us to the scene that we already know happens, where he says those same words. And so we can see that coming of that confrontation, perhaps. I just wish there was a little bit more meat in this scene that for us to chew on the moral dilemmas and how unclear they can be in these difficult moments.
Mm-hmm. I was also wondering if they were going to do something like that and have them argue and like wait too long. And so then they wouldn't have time. Eugene wouldn't have time to get there. And I don't know, that also might have been interesting, the ramifications of what if we hadn't fought? What if we had acted sooner and Eugene would have been able to go and actually have closure? I don't know, maybe there's something interesting there. Maybe there's not, but that was something else that I was wondering around that scene.
Okay, any other last big thoughts from this episode that we want to make sure that we touch on before we give out some awards?
I would like to give a shout out to the actor Tony Dalton, who plays Joel's dad. He also played Lalo in Better Call Saul, and I loved Lalo in Better Call Saul, which is, I don't know, maybe a hot take about that show, but Lalo was so much fun, and it was just a blast to see Tony Dalton in this episode. He did a great job, and I just feel like he should be recognized for the good work that he does in a very short scene.
Nice. I haven't seen Better Call Saul, but Dillon, I don't know if you have, but sounds like he's also a character in that show as well.
It's so good. I second Sarah's opinion. He's
Nice.
such a good actor.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, let's give out some TVNS awards, shall we? So the first category is Scrappiest Survivor. What are your choices for this one?
So I had a really hard time with these, but
yeah,
I'm going to go with Joel for the museum birthday. That was just very carefully planned, as he alludes to. He was patient and knew about it for forever, but he put some effort into that, and I think that's scrappy.
Nice. Sarah, what is your choice for Scrappiest Survivor?
Yeah, my choice for this one is the bag of Legos that Joel finds. That's solid, man. That's a good scavenging. That's a great prize. I love that those Legos survived the apocalypse.
Nice. My choice for Scrappiest Survivor is my own memory of all of the questions I had about Joel and Ellie that has survived the past 6 episodes of The Last of Us Season 2.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The struggle is so real. I was watching this episode and being like, oh God, I have to remember things from Season 1 now? What are we doing? Oh, that's a great choice.
One of the moments I had this feeling was when Ellie is asking Joel in the porch scene of the series of questions, and she asks him, could they have made a cure? And I'm just like, I forgot about the whole set of stakes around that alone, which also is a part of Joel's choice and decision. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's a lot more complexity here in a lot of what happened that feels far, far away. And I was reminded when she asked that question. Okay, the next category is for Grittiest Moment. What is your choice for this one?
We already touched on it a little bit, but I thought Joel shooting Eugene, but not the shooting, the betrayal of Ellie felt so gritty, to not think of a better word in time. But man, I don't know, that scene just really did it for me. It really told a lot about the relationships and just gave me that gut punch.
Nice. That's a really great choice. Yeah, it's emotionally charged, as well as the what's happening alone is incredibly gritty as well. But all of the emotional stakes and ripple effects that we know are coming are also so great. Sarah, what is your choice for Grittiest Moment?
So this was the category that I struggled with initially, but we got there. I think the grittiest moment was the misspelled birthday cake. Because that's really rough. To try to go for Ellie and you get Eli. Man, we have made a series of mistakes, and you shouldn't mess with a parent and their kid's birthday cake. Woof, that's rough.
It's not even like Ellie without the E, but at least the 2 L's are there. It's literally a different name entirely. Oh, that's a good one. Great choice. It almost looks like they ran out of space at the bottom too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So funny.
Yeah, and they didn't do the whole now I'm gonna write the letters really little.
No.
They just stopped trying, which is really funny.
Drop half the letters from your name.
Yeah, half the name.
My choice for Grittiest Moment was having to watch Joel lie to Gale while Ellie's standing there. That was rough.
Mm-hmm. And that slap. Woo!
Yep.
She got him.
Good job, Gale. Okay, then third category is Straight Shooter Award. What are your choices for this one?
I think I have awarded Ellie like almost every single week. So she wins again with Then I Was Supposed to Die. I just found that such a spicy line. And I think in the heat of it, that was not. I don't think Joel was expecting that answer. I don't know. I think he was expecting some amount of like vindication of like, but I saved you. So for her to come back so harshly and so quickly with that line, I think, I don't know. It was good.
That's really good. Great choice. Sarah, what did you pick?
I want to also give this to our girl Ellie when she says to Joel, "You don't own anything."
Yeah, that's great. They gave this to you. They gave this to us, which she then clarifies right after. So good. I'm going to give this award to Gail, to Joel at the cafe, where she says death, if you believe in that shit.
I loved that whole conversation with Gail. Catherine O'Hara is just a gem. And while I didn't enjoy this episode, I'm so glad that we got to see her again as Gail.
She's great. I just want to like have a special bonus episode of like Gail palling around town. Up to no good, go into the like local soccer game with her cooler of beers. What's she up to? You know, like I want to know a day in her life.
Smoking a joint, just having a great time. That would be fun. Yeah, let's do a little web series with Gail. That sounds great.
All right, looking ahead to the finale, what are you thinking you'll see? Dillon, that might have been one of your biggest ones today. That was satisfying. That was great. I'm pleased.
I'm glad. I have officially lost all hope in the show. I don't know what I'm looking forward to anymore. I know what to expect of what will happen in Seattle on day 3.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll say this. I would love for in the finale for them to explain how Ellie got from underground red light scene to just back at the theater. Yep. I hope they touch on that.
All right. Dillon would like some answers, please. Logistical answers. Sarah, what are you hoping to see?
Yeah, I'm going to second that because we're going through this whole flashback business. And then all of a sudden, when we're in the present, she's at a completely different location. And I'm like, hey, hold on just a second here, buddy. She was underground with the infected air. How did she get back up to the ground floor, let alone through the hospital? Because, what is her name? Nora was alerting the guards as she was running. So presumably there were some guards and some people that she had to, I guess, murder to get out. Like, I have some questions and I need some answers, but I don't have any faith in the show to give me those answers, so it's fine. I would like to see Jeffrey Wright. I am still a Jeffrey Wright stan. He has been a bright spot in this season. That character was awesome. He has flair. He tried to murder a dude with a frying pan. That is something special. And so I would like to see more of Jeffrey Wright, please.
Nice. All right. I just want to see where they're going to end this season. Like, I feel like we've gotten recently a lot of shows that are doing this like really open-ended season finale because they know and we all know that like another season is coming. And so I'm just curious, like, for the sake of understanding what the industry is doing right now, like where will they choose to end this and how much of that like curiosity, open-ended threads they're going to leave hanging versus tie up and why. So I'm more just like sheer curiosity around where we will end this very strange arc and how to now then think about the whole and perhaps try and understand why some of those choices were made along the way. Like, I've been just waiting to see if this finale will help answer a lot of the structural pacing character choices of the show so far, including making this series of montage flashbacks, the penultimate episode of the season. Interesting choice. I wonder if that will make more sense to me after the finale or not at all. So I'm mostly like curiously watching this like a bad train wreck and I'm like, I have to see how it all happens, you know? So that's where I'm at. We'll see. There will be much to talk about, I'm sure, with what they choose to do in this finale. And we will be here for it.
Indeed, we will.
Yep. Sarah, you're going to be relieved.
Buckle up, everyone.
You're going to be relieved of this show in one more hour, maybe an hour 20, depending on what they do with the finale.
Oh, God. Yes, I am so pleased because honestly, y'all, I am not watching season 3. Like, if when the time comes we decide to review it, okay, I will deal with that in my own heart. But like, as of right now, I'm done with this show and I'm not watching another season. So this next episode is the series finale for me. So I'm very excited. I'm very curious to see how the show is going to end. This is going to be a great time.
Sarah, I'm proud of you and happy for you, but I'm going to have to ride this train all the way to the end. Season 3, I'll be here.
Sarah's like hopped off the train at the station. Dillon's just solemnly waving as the train continues to roll onto the next destination. All right. Well, this was our review and discussion of episode 6 of season 2. You can find it available to stream on Max. Thank you for listening to this episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. So everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today as we continue our journey through The Last of Us Season 2. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know all of your thoughts about this 6th episode of the season. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tvnspod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. We will be back very soon to discuss the finale of the show. We can't wait to see what happens, and we'll have lots of feelings and opinions, I'm sure, as a result of it. So in the meantime, we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.